The theme for this year's event is Big Data Analytics, the cutting edge for enterprise competitiveness. This is following on our usual tradition. When we hold the Web Jurist Awards, we usually have a topical issue that runs along with it as well. Of course, in the field of linked mostly to the field of technology.
So I do welcome you to this 11th version of the Web Jurist. This is something we've been doing for the last 11 years and how time has flown. And I also want to thank Google, the Google team, for joining us. As Bai explained to you, we usually try to find a good, interesting, topical, leading-edge issue to deal with. And we thought that Google would be the best suited to talk about things on big data. And I think you'll see why later on. One thing about the Web Jurist is it's always been about websites. And some of you appreciate that websites have gone through a lot of transformation, transition over the last 15 years or so. The original website we had used to just settle for what we call brochureware, whereby you go to a website and all you will see on it is just like a brochure, just a digitized brochure. Nothing much going on other than providing you with information about the organization and what they're up to. Then I think gradually websites moved to more transaction-driven, and especially with the likes of the banks, whereby we've gotten to the stage where the website not only introduces the bank, introduces the products, introduces the ability to transmit data, to just transact business online. And obviously, it was important for websites to be very, very secure, important for them to give you the level of integrity and comfort you would need in order to be able to start dealing with financial issues online.
Right, so the subject for today is about big data. And just talking to everyone in the room, I noticed that some people work in marketing analytics, data analytics, networking, and different related functions. And as Mr. Phillips mentioned, data today is a very interesting and important subject. The digital world, as we know, is big and it's growing. It's growing every second. In 1996, statistics showed that we had 36 million people online, and as at last year, we had 2 billion people online. If we look at what that looks like in Nigeria, based on ITU statistics, in year 2000, there were just 200,000 Nigerians on the internet. And very recently, the same source suggests that there are 45 million Nigerians online. And that growth has really multiplied in the last few years. So every year, the year-on-year increase in terms of people getting online, in terms of data that is generated and consumed, is increasing tremendously.
Large volumes of data. So the whole idea here, so Julian mentioned that you generate data all the time. When people come into the company, they swipe their cards, that's data generated. When people talk on their mobile phones, it's data generated. So the question is within your organization, how does this apply and what sort of data can you store? So examples here will be varied sources like web crawlers. That's data that's really important to us. So we have web crawlers crawling data all the time. But to some other companies, like the perfect example of the telecoms companies here. So call data records, base station position, alarm sense from base stations. So I used to work in the telecom sector, so I have a bit of background. So the next bit is about storage. So when I worked in telecoms, we would store data for like maybe 2 weeks and use it for some types of data, like this in network operations. We'll store for about 2 weeks and then we'll discard. So the whole idea here is how can you store data for as long as possible? And that's store. And actually what R in Charles Farm's models stood for was replicate. So keeping this data redundant so you don't lose it. So how can how the culture works actually replicated. And the last bit, similar to store, is to append. Now, like I said earlier, when I was in most of our organizations, we'll probably use data for a few weeks or a month. Maybe if you're lucky, we use it for a year, and then we discard because we think it's no longer relevant. But if we want to be able to use historical information to predict the future, or at least to get an insight into how our data behaves, or what else we can correlate, then we need to develop a culture of actually appending, not deleting. And finally, talking about processing, where now you're looking at analytics, you're looking at analyzing, you're looking at what insights you can actually generate from this data. Okay. So I'll give you an example. This is not a Google project, so we're being very generous, keeping it open. This is an IBM project that was done in Cote d'Ivoire. So they took call data records from telecoms companies. So actually, if you're a business person here and you don't have a relationship with telecoms companies in this country, I advise you to make very good friends with them. They have lots of data they don't even know how to use. So IBM was able to take 2.5 billion records from 5 million mobile phone users. And in the process, just about a week or two, they were able to identify 2 potential new bus routes that reduce commuting time in Abidjan, I believe, by like 10%. So imagine saving 10% travel time in a city like Lagos. I think that's huge, and it will add to productivity for a lot of people. That's the kind of thing that data enables you to do.
My name is Olamide from Jumia, and I am the PRO.
Now, we learned a lot about big data and how it helps in enterprise development. Can you share with us how data helps in terms of business development and strategy?
Okay, for Jumia, basically, it is all about your target audience, because we have our target audience trying to come to the site. Now, with data, we are able to gather the type of people that are coming to our site and what they actually need. Now, without that, we just have items on the site and people not buying because we're not buying the right items. But with data, we're able to gather the type of people that should be coming to our sites and people that are buying from our site. So we get the right items and we're able to deliver to them in time.
This time around, there's a lot of talk around big data, a lot of activity, initiatives, and so on around that. So we thought that in this year's Web Jurist event, which normally would take place anyway, that we would invite an organization like Google to join us in presenting and informing the corporate world what's going on as far as data analysis, data analytics, and so on is concerned.
Data is very important, and we generate data on a daily basis. If you think about how much email is sent, at the moment we have about 270 million emails sent every day globally. That's a lot of data. And across various industries, from the banking sector to telecoms, data gets generated on a daily basis. And it's very important for organizations to develop a culture internally that enables them to capture that data, store it, analyze it, and process it in a way that enables 2 things. One is creating business intelligence that can help decision making for the organization itself. And the second is to be able to offer value to the end consumer. Because if you understand your consumers better, you can serve them better. So being able to process consumer data that you capture through multiple outlets on a regular basis, being able to process that in a meaningful way makes it possible for you to be more empowered to serve your customers better.